Hey, happy Tuesday, August 12th. The summer is almost gone. Bummer. But today I wanted to share a video on the day in the life of a dreamer, as meaning someone who has visions and dreams. I had something interesting happen today, and I wanted to share with you. So, I have shared a little bit that I had a near death experience. It was back in 2017, so it's been 8 years ago. And for a long time, I kept it to myself because I wanted to keep it sacred. And then I started sharing, and the more I've shared, I've been encouraged to share more because all it does is testify that there is a God and that He loves us. And that's the greatest message that God would want us to know and hear. And so I haven't been as hesitant, but I was going to write a book on it. And so I started to try to write this book like 6, 7 years ago, and I could never get it down on paper. And I don't know if it's because of anxiety or writer's block or why, but I mean, I got ideas out and I would, put them in Google Docs, different ideas about things I wanted to write and things I wanted to share. But I've got several books that I've wanted to write because I want to write one about my Lyme disease. I want to write one about abuse and how I'm an advocate for that, especially for women and children. And that ties into my near death experience because of what happened to me. And I was sent back by God to help women and children who do not feel love or believe in themselves because they've been degraded their whole lives to know that God loves them and cherishes them and sees them as His magnificent, beautiful creation, as a daughter or child of God. And so that's my commission that I've been sent back to do. And so finally last week, I decided, you know what? Okay, I'm having a hard time writing it out, so I'm going to record it. And so I got onto my voice recorder and I started recording, and it just came and came and came, and it just flowed out. And I was up till 1 a.m. and I rewrote my book. Now I just got to transcribe it, which will be the fun part. But it's interesting because I've been talking to somebody about how I had this near death experience, and he's been asking me questions, just private messages that we've been having. And I told him, he asked me if I had had visions and dreams, and I told him yes, I did, up until the time that I had my near death experience. And then I continued to for about a year after. This is something I want to share. When a person dies or goes to the other side, they lose what is called the veil. A veil is the curtain between this life and the life hereafter. I believe that we lived with God in the premortal world before we came to earth. We committed to come to earth because we wanted to learn and grow and have certain experiences. And I think we had a say in what experiences we wanted to have. And so life is our school. It's where we learn, and it's where we experience opposition in all things, joy and sorrow, pain and glory. And so my purpose in all of this is not only to glorify God and to let you know that He lives because I met Him, but I want to help others who've never been able to believe in themselves and love themselves, and they think that somehow it's wrong to love themselves. I was a people pleaser my whole life, and I was told it was wrong to love yourself or put yourself first before others. But if we don't love ourselves, others aren't going to love us as much. If we don't respect ourselves, others won't respect us as much. And so I've learned that I had to put up boundaries, and I needed to learn the fine line between loving myself as a daughter of God so that I could help somebody else love themselves as a daughter or child of God. And that's what God sent me back to do. So leading up to that time, I had many visions and dreams. And then it all kind of stopped. And I was telling this person a week or two ago, I'm kind of bummed because it all kind of stopped. And then today I had a dream that was really interesting. So I'm going to share as much as I can leading up to that. So I'm just going to I'm not going to say I'm psychic, but I've always felt like I was close to the bell or close to heaven, close, very unusually close to God and Christ as a child growing up. And I had experiences where I was with angels, but I didn't realize at the time that's what was happening. But there was like for one time, for instance, I knew I was with one of my grandmothers, but she was like my great grandmother, and we were looking down and watching my father and some of my relatives build my home that would soon become my home when I came to Earth. I couldn't make sense of that for a long time, but now I do. And there were things that happened as a child that I couldn't make sense of, and so I thought maybe I was a freak or it kind of scared me. But now it doesn't, because now I understand, because everything has been coming together and I understand it all. It's taken me 60 years to learn to understand a lot of this, but now it makes sense to me, and now I know what my purpose is. And so that's why I'm sharing this. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of visions of dreams and dreams. I always knew, like the spirit would tell me, you're going to run into so and so in the grocery store, and as soon as I walk in, they're there. Or so and so is going to call you, and 2 seconds later they call me. Or one of my very best friends from college, we've been friends for over 30 years, and I was just really thinking about her one day, and I was like, I've got to call her. And I called her, and we talked for a while, and then she said, did you know today was my birthday? And I just went, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. I didn't realize. And she said, Jeannie, you're the first person that has called me or said hi to me. Like the day was almost over. And she said, I've been wanting to cry all day long because nobody's wished me happy birthday. And you called me. So I know that was God and his promptings telling me to call her because it was her birthday. But like there were times where like I was sitting in a class in college and a guy walked in the room and God told me, you are going to meet this guy, you're going to get to know him, and you're going to become close friends. Well, I ended up dating him. That's happened multiple times, but let me get more specific and detailed into a specific dream I had about, it's been now about 10 years ago. And this was when I was really ill and my body was fading away. And it was right before, it was very close to before I had my near death experience. And I had a dream that there was a massacre at a China subway. And me and my children were at the subway, but we were in the background and we were watching it happen from a distance. And I just saw people falling and falling, and I could see the people killing them, but I couldn't figure out how they were killing them. I knew it wasn't a shooting, it wasn't a bomb, but I saw it happen. And I woke up the next morning and it was like, oh my gosh, that was so real. And I went to church that morning, and I only stayed. Usually we used to have a 3-hour church. I only stayed for the first hour, and I went home. And on the way home, I turned on the radio, and it said that there had been a massacre the night before, a shooting in Miami. I believe it was. It was either Miami or Fort Lauderdale, somewhere in Florida. But it was at a bar, but it was a shooting. And I went, oh my gosh, I wasn't wrong. There was a massacre, a mass killing. And I said to myself, but it wasn't a shooting. I know, I saw it, and it wasn't a shooting. And so I was kind of confused about it, but it did give me validation that I heard that there was a massacre, a mass killing. Well, then the next day, I went to a healing retreat at one of my friends' homes. She invited me there, and some of my other good friends were there who we've all gone down this healing path. And she invited a speaker, and we got to know him really good. And at one point we left her home and we went into the mountains because she lived up close to the mountains, and we went into a canyon and we had kind of a spiritual meeting, and he shared some things. And he said, did you guys hear about the massacre at the subway in China? And I was like, are you kidding me? That happened? And he's like, yeah. And I said, I dreamt about it like 2 nights ago. And I said, I could see them all dying, but I didn't know how they were being killed. And he said, yeah, they were hatchets and axes. They were just cutting people down. And I was like, oh my gosh, I saw that happen. And 2 days later it happened. And he's like, wow, we need to listen to your dreams. And I've had multiple dreams where something happened and I was told something was going to happen. And like 2 or 3 days later, it happened. And like I said, about the year leading up, so this happened throughout my whole life, especially as I got older. Um, but a year leading up to my near death experience, I was having dreams and visions on a daily basis. Literally, God was telling me something, and I was seeing it either in a dream or vision. And then 2 or 3 days later, it would happen. And it's because I was getting close to the veil because I was getting close to dying. Um, So now I'm just going to tell you, there are so many cool things that happened. Like God said, this is going to happen and you're going to find your grandpa's journal and it's going to be by this book that your mom read to you when you were growing up. Well, I randomly drove to my mother's house that was an hour away and I had even forgot about this. And I went down into the basement and I was just looking through some of the books. And my mother and father both do family history. They've kept journals throughout their whole lives. And I was just randomly down there. I think I spent the night. Um, yeah, that's what it was. I spent the night. I went down to this bedroom that I slept in, and I looked over, and on the bookshelf, there was that book that my mother used to read to us as a child, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a book that I was told I was going to see. So I got up and I went over to the book. I looked through the book for a minute, and then right next to the book was my grandfather's journal. So my grandmother was the one that came to me and told me that I would find a message from my grandfather. I found a message from my grandfather in his journal that was next to the book that I was told I would see that my mother used to read to us as a child. And there was a message for me from my grandfather, and it was specifically what I needed for that time in my life. Just every day, I was having things like this happen. Um, some of them are personal, so I don't want to share them all. But today, I was not feeling well. Yesterday, I woke up kind of feeling like I was getting a sore throat, and then today I woke up like I was kind of getting a head cold with my sore throat. And so I slept all day. I slept a good portion of the day, not all the day. But I got up, I got me some breakfast, went to the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. And then I thought, I do not feel good. I'm going to go back to bed. So I went back to bed and I slept for 2 more hours. And right before I woke up, in my dream, so I live right next to my daughter. We live in a fourplex. She lives in the one kitty corner below me, and I live in the one kitty corner above her. And so we both have each other's keys in case we ever need to get into each other's apartments. And so I had a dream, and I knew my daughter had my granddaughter out somewhere. It had just been her birthday, and in the dream she was taking her somewhere special, and I thought, I'm going to sneak in to the back door and I'm going to surprise my granddaughter and say hi and surprise her. And my daughter didn't know I was going to be there, so I did that. I snuck in, and then my granddaughter, I could hear him at the door. My granddaughter walked in first, and my daughter hadn't walked in yet. And my granddaughter was like, hi, Grandma. And she started talking to me, and she was surprised and happy to see me. And then my daughter walked in and said, who are you talking to? And she said, Grandma. And my daughter said, Grandma's not here. And she said, yes, she is. She's right there. And my daughter said, but Grandma's in heaven. And then I said to my granddaughter, tell your mom to go up to my place and look in my bed, and she will find me. And as soon as I said that, I immediately woke up and I sat up out of my bed and I looked over, and my daughter was at my door trying to get my attention. She was worried about me because she had gone and run some errands, and she got home and she noticed that there were some groceries on my door. I knew somebody was bringing me some groceries. But then she went somewhere again and came back, and the groceries were still there. And so she tried to call me, and I didn't answer. So she tried to knock, and I didn't answer. So she went back and got her key and came up and opened the door and came into my bedroom and opened my door. And she's like, Mom, are you okay? And I sat up and I'm like, oh, yeah. She's like, are you sick? And I said, oh, I wasn't feeling very well. But it was just really kind of cool, yet strange, that I had just told this gentleman a week ago that my dreams and visions had stopped. And I was kind of bummed. And then I had that dream. And it's weird because I had somebody give me a session So I do guided imagery meditation sessions with people. I also do cranial sacral sessions, and I'm highly intuitive, I will say that. And oftentimes the person's ancestors will come to me and give them a message, and they'll be like, yep, that's so and so, that's what she always used to say. And I'll be told, tell so and so this. So I'll tell the person that I'm working on, and they'll say, yep, that was just like my aunt or my grandma. Or so I do. I don't specifically do intuitive readings, but it just comes naturally to me when I'm doing these sessions. And so I've been trading with a friend. Like she'll do a session for me one week, and the next week I'll do one for her. And so I was just telling her how I missed my heavenly home, and sometimes it's hard to be back here on this earth in this body that doesn't work, and I have a spirit that wants to fly, and I want to be like John the Beloved, because I could do so much good if I could be with him. And Moses was translated, and John the Beloved was translated, and Jesus had asked Peter, James, and John what their greatest desires were, and Peter and James has said, we want to come and be with you and live with you. And Jesus told them, that's a great desire. I will reward you with that desire. And John said, he then asked John, what's your greatest desire? And he said, I want to stay here on earth as a translated being so that I can go around and I can help people and do good. That's been my desire. And I keep telling Heavenly Father, that's what I want, because my body doesn't work. My grandkids have kept me going, and they've kept me wanting to be here because they're a joy. But sometimes after you've been in heaven and then you come back down to earth and you're in this body still that doesn't work the way you want it to, and you don't feel like you're doing any good, it's like, but Heavenly Father, if you translated me, I could do so much more good. And he reminded me last week, yeah, but in your guided imagery sessions, you help women that you work on feel my love. And every single session I've done on people, that's what they've expressed. And it's so beautiful for me to witness that, because they're feeling God's love through me as I give them the session. But specifically, I was also told to write music. I have written music and workshops to share with women and children to help them learn to love and believe in themselves and believe that they can be anything they want or do anything they want and live all their dreams. And it's like, okay, I wrote all of that, and I felt like it was right after my near-death experience. God gave me a download of these songs. In fact, he gave me like 25 songs, and I don't know what to do with them all because I don't know how to record them myself. I was able to fulfill my dream. See, that's the first time I felt love for myself, because God showed me his pure love for me as his daughter. And so that made me feel like, okay, well, I can share God's love through myself. Not that I'm promoting, oh, I'm so good, look at me. Not at all. He knew that the most comfortable way for me would be to share his love through me instead of me being high and mighty or any of that, because I never have been. I've always been a very meek, humble person. Not all the time. I'm not perfect. None of us are. But I've tried to be. And sometimes that's gotten me in trouble because I have a gentle nature. I've been a pushover most of my life, and people have taken advantage of me and walked all over me. That's part of why I had my near-death experience, which I'm not going to share now. But it all led to that because I was demeaned over and over and over, which affected me physically, which contributed to my health declining, which contributed to my heart stopping. I actually think I died of a broken heart, which contributed to me having my near-death experience. So I just wanted to share that was so cool to me. Oh, that I finally had a dream again, because the gal that I'm trading with told me when I was telling her, I just want to go back to heaven. I don't feel like I'm doing any good, and I can't do anything in this body, and it's just, there's no pain there, and I feel so much pain and anguish on this earth, like a lot of us do. And she said, I really feel like you need to write your book, because she's highly intuitive as well. She said, you need to write your book, and once your book is done, then Heavenly Father will let you go back. And it dawned on me, I finished my book last week. It's not written out, but I spoke it out, and I spoke the whole thing. And then I had this dream today, and it was just all very interesting to me. I don't know what it all means yet, and it may be kind of strange to share with you, but I know there's a lot of people that do have visions and dreams and keep them to themselves because they don't want to look crazy. A lot more people are starting to, and we've been told in the scriptures that it would happen before the Savior's second coming. I was told in my near-death experience that Christ was coming. That was 8 years ago. I believe it's so close, and he's preparing us for his coming, and it kind of made me excited that I had that dream, and it kind of in a way came true. It was just so bizarre that my daughter came up to my bed when I told my granddaughter in my dream to tell your mom to come up to my bed, because my daughter was probably panicking, not knowing where I was or if I was okay. And anyway, it kind of excited me because it's like, maybe it's back, maybe. And I really truly believe that a lot more of us that are awake and open and on this path of healing and on this path of wanting to be a light for Christ and God, that we're going to start having more and more things come to us, and the veil is going to start thinning for us. And so I wanted to share that because I thought it was cool, and I thought maybe some of you could relate to that. When I get more, I'll share more. I will share my near-death experience at some point. I will share my Lyme disease. I want to talk more about that because so many people struggle with it, and I want to talk more about how to get through that daily. Like, I was in bed all day yesterday, I was in bed all day today because I feel like I had this head cold. But normally I'm in bed a lot anyway, especially if I go out and try to do an activity and then I come home and I crash because it affects your adrenals. And okay, that's another story for another day. I just wanted to share that dream that I had with you today. Believe in your visions and dreams. If your children come to you and tell you they have visions and dreams, don't doubt them. Believe. Believe. That's my message for today. Have a good night.